Hey guys, how's it going? This is The Shadow, welcoming you to part 4 of the coming series, Autopilot. With each part of this series I upload, I just keep feeling better and better about things to come. So I think I'm gonna keep on uploading. Sorry about the quality of this interview, it's maybe a little bit worse than usual, but anywho, lock your doors, bar your windows, turn out the lights, and prepare for The Coming, Part 4, Autopilot by The Shadow. Now relax, this won't hurt too much. Ha 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 ha. Jacob arrived home after a long, pointless day at the office. His days had always had, and always would be like this, consistent. His route to work hadn't changed in the 10 years he had worked for the company, and his drive home was always the same, with occasional deviations caused by traffic and other such factors. Checking the mail, he found a normal day's haul. Bill, credit card offer, bill, Jehovah's Witness pamphlet, and... wait, what's this? Jacob was halted in his sorting by the appearance of a job classified magazine amongst all the bills and flyers in his usual haul of mail. Without thinking, he haphazardly stuffed the stack of mail into his briefcase and walked towards the stairs leading up to his apartment. Arriving at the door, he noticed with some minor irritation that his door was slightly ajar. Putting his keys back in his right jacket pocket as he pushed the door open, there was only one possible cause of his door being left open. His roommate had left the door open, again. The thought of kicking his roommate out had been in the back of his mind for a few months now, but it fell lower on the list of importance, behind getting groceries, checking the mail, and dusting the single dice that had sat on his kitchen counter, the number 6 visible, from the day he and his roommate moved in. The roommate, Jacob couldn't even remember his name, had always paid his share of the rent, $350, on time, and Jacob never even saw him leave or enter his room, the first door on the left that always remained locked. Now, his routine being broken by the appearance of the mysterious magazine, remember, all other thoughts were pushed aside to make room for the eviction process. Jacob knocked lightly on the locked door, and, getting no response, he knocked a little harder, and the door creaked slightly at that point, causing Jacob to freeze in his tracks. He nudged the door experimentally, and it opened with little resistance. The thoughts about pros and cons of getting his roommate out that were flowing through his mind, including the biggest one, he didn't even need the extra $350 a month, halted immediately. His mouth, open with the words, "I think it's time you move out," ready to escape, hung open as he saw the sight before him. The room was completely empty, save for a thin layer of dust coating every surface, a few months' worth of dust, mind you, and slight indentations on the carpet where a bed and dresser had once stood. In a state of shock, Jacob turned and left the dusty room, closing the door behind him. Going over to the fridge, Jacob pulled out a frozen dinner and put it in the microwave. While his food was being heated, Jacob emptied the contents of his briefcase onto the kitchen counter, taking care not to disturb that one mysterious dice with the number 6 showing. A carefully organized stack of papers, 3 paper clips, 2 pens, 1 coil notebook, HP, 100 pages, 5 by 8 inch, single ruled, and the slightly marred clump of that day's mail fell onto the counter with slight rustling. The magazine once again caught the full attention of Jacob. It seemed to have a vexing quality over him, causing everything else around Jacob to cease existing. Walking as if in a trance over to the couch, he sat down and began to leaf through the magazine. The high-pitched announcement coming from the microwave seemed like it was 100 miles away, barely audible. The slight mechanical whir emanating from the antique Dinette clock on the wall, usually inaudible, now sounded like the roar of traffic from a busy highway. A chill ran down Jacob's spine as an advertisement caught his attention. Hospitality trainees wanted. We are looking for individuals to start immediately in the field of hospitality. Call 253-665-2901 for further information. Jacob stared, transfixed by the phone number. He didn't even realize he had pulled out his cell phone and dialed the number when a woman's voice snapped him back into reality. CDI, this is Kate. How can I help you? The voice was somehow familiar, with a slightly irritating tone of optimism evident. Jacob began, and then, with his sense of reality once again intact, replied, "Oh, sorry, hi. I'm calling in regards to your ad in the Job Classified magazine. I'm highly interested in this position. Can you tell me more about it?" After that statement, clarity washed over Jacob for the first time since childhood. A journalism graduate, he landed a job at a tabloid newsletter right out of college, and he hated that job. It was soul-crushing, mind-numbing bullshit. Day after day, he squandered his dream of being a reporter on stories of celebrity side boob shots, garbage about divorce, and everything in between. Recently, he had been put on the project of creating a daily crossword for the app, Celebrity Daily Crossword. That crossword, he thought, was the brain food of idiots. But the sense of routine in him was so strong that he had blocked out all of his misery and just did his job. That flyer had been the catalyst that broke the routine, or disengaged the autopilot. "Certainly, sir. I've already set up an interview this evening. Be at 45332 Keating Ave at 7 p.m. Kate's voice broke his train of thought. He looked at the clock. 5:36 p.m. Enough time to shower and change and be at the interview precisely 5 minutes early. Excellent. See you shortly. Jacob absent-mindedly responded to the statement and hung up the phone. Jacob stepped out of the shower stall and toweled off. His bag of stuff sat on the bathroom counter. Toothpaste, toothbrush, razor, deodorant, nail clippers, hairbrush, everything he needed was in this bag. An undershirt, briefs, and black socks were folded neatly beside his bag of stuff. A suit hung from the handle of the bathroom door, neatly pressed and waiting to embrace some lucky schlub. Jacob put on the undergarments and socks, then brushed his teeth. When he finished, he took a swig of mouthwash and plugged in the razor. While he shaved and gargled, another moment of clarity hit him. The day that his roommate moved out. He didn't even ask his roommate to leave. One night he was there, and the next morning, Jacob saw that all of his roommate's things were gone. Driving, the GPS informed him to make a left, and then the destination would be on his right. His suit still fit him perfectly, one of a deep charcoal gray, with a red shirt and black tie. The black shoes on his feet shone to perfection, polished with a level of meticulosity that even the most obsessive of people wouldn't be able to find flaw with. Jacob parked his car at the address and shut the engine off. He looked at his watch, 6:55 p.m., 5 minutes early. He walked into the office and walked up to the receptionist, who asked, "How may I be of assistance?" Jacob informed the receptionist, whose name tag told him her name was Jody, that he had a 7 o'clock appointment. Just as he finished, a thin woman with large purple glasses came to the reception area and said, "Jacob, we're ready for you." Jacob looked at this odd-looking woman for a moment, but then nodded curtly and followed silently as she led him to a small office. He entered first and took a seat at the desk, and she followed, closing the door behind her as she entered. A computer, tensor lamp, and file basket with the words "in" and "out" printed on either side were the only items that occupied the desk. The woman introduced herself as Nadine, and the interview began. As they spoke to one another, Nadine asking questions and Jacob providing answers, things began to feel off. As Jacob would respond to a question, whether it be, "What's your favorite color?" or "Where do you live?" he would respond in turn and she would type on the keyboard, presumably recording his answers. Nadine then paused, then said, "Okay, I'm going to take you to meet Keith, our loan officer, and when we finish there, we'll come back here and conclude the interview." At this point, the slight perturbance that had been building in Jacob intensified, causing his right eyebrow to twitch, unbeknownst to Nadine, and they walked down the hall. After meeting with the loan officer, Jacob sat across from Nadine. Nadine asked another question, and following Jacob's response, she produced a notepad from her desk drawer, scrawled "Good to go" on it, and placed the paper in the "out" basket where it sat looking rather lonesome. She then produced a folder from another drawer and handed it to Jacob. "You start on Monday. Show up at the address in this folder at around 7:45 a.m. And best of luck to you." Jacob muttered a thank you. They shook hands over the desk, and then Jacob left the office. It only occurred to him to leaf through the folder once he sat down in his car, where he discovered that somehow, in the hour that had transpired, he ended up enrolled in a college course for hospitality business management. Shaking his head, he started his car and began the drive home in a fog of confusion. An odd smell greeted him when he opened the door to his apartment. It seemed to be coming from the microwave, and when he opened the door, he was greeted with the stale frozen dinner that had sat in the microwave for hours on end. He dumped the contents into the trash can and then walked to the couch and sat down. He looked through the folder. That ad wasn't a job ad, it was a friggin' college recruitment ad. Feeling slightly annoyed, he leafed through the papers within the folder and learned what he would be doing. Then he put the folder down when it was 9:30, turned on the TV, and the deep fog of routine materialized around him once again. The alarm clock woke Jacob, who had been dreaming of a nuclear war in which he was the only survivor, at 6 a.m. on Monday. Jacob sat up, rubbing his eyes to shoo the last traces of sleep from his mind. He looked at the clock, which now read 6:01. This was out of his routine. He shrugged, thinking nothing of it, and walked to the kitchen to start the coffee maker, when a note on the counter caught his eye. It read, "Jacob, this is Jacob. You start college on Monday at 7:45 a.m. Change your routine accordingly." The strangeness of this note made the routine break. The clarity washed over him again. He showered and then ate a breakfast of an English muffin and cup of black coffee. The dream. It all had something to do with that dream. Now in a state of clarity, Jacob recalled that he had been having that particular dream for the last 2 weeks or so, but normally he was so clouded by his routine that it was never a thought. Jacob locked his front door and walked to his car, where he made the long trip across the city to the college campus. The building seemed abandoned, but the "open" sign by the front door assured him that he was at the right place. He entered and walked to the classroom where he was supposed to be, and then focused his attention to the course, falling back into routine once again. As the weeks went by, Jacob's moments of clarity would hit at random intervals, and each time, the moment of clarity would make him feel as if he were being watched, leading to an increase in his already high levels of paranoia. About a week and a half into the course, he would raise his hand to either ask or answer a question and would be completely ignored. That led to him questioning his existence, but other things going on around him seemed to keep moving, including him, so anytime those questions of existence arose, they were quashed by something involving him. Jacob walked from the mailbox to the stairs leading up to his apartment, leafing through the stack of mail. Nothing noteworthy here. He paused in a moment of clarity as he reached his front door and found it once again ajar. Autopilot disengaged. Jacob felt a wave of fear, paranoia, and anger wash over him. He exploded through the front door, shouting, "Whoever's in here is gonna pay!" The apartment was just as he left it, with nothing out of place. Autopilot engaged. My roommate must have left the door open again. Maybe it's time I get rid of him, thought Jacob. A brisk wind thrilled through the remnants of the windows, ruffling the neat stack of papers and causing a pen to roll and fall to the floor. Jacob awoke, freezing as the wind invaded every square inch of his apartment. He got out of bed wearing the same pair of tattered sweatpants he had been wearing for the last 10 years. He wore a torn sweatshirt with the now barely legible words, "Vancouver Grizzlies," emblazoned across the front in faded teal lettering. He walked, in a haste, to the kitchen, where he grabbed the dirty glass coffee pot from its perch on the coffee maker, held it under the sink where he filled it, poured the contents into the coffee maker's housing, and then put a coffee filter full of coffee in and turned it on. While the coffee was brewing, he took a moldy English muffin from a bag on the counter, separated it, and put it in the toaster. He then moved over to the counter and began to repack his briefcase with the stack of paper, 3 paper clips, single-ruled notebook, and the one pen? He looked around the counter for the second pen, lovingly dubbed Ol' Red, and it was nowhere in sight. He moved the briefcase, taking care not to disturb the dice to see if the pen had somehow managed to migrate under the briefcase. The dice now showed a 3. Jacob noticed the dice and the briefcase fall to the floor, causing the contents to scatter. The first semblance of clarity in 3 months hit him like a truck. He backed away from the counter and bumped the coffee maker behind him with his elbow, causing it to topple to the floor, a cloud of dust from the coffee filter instantly exploding before him. There was no liquid in the coffee maker or coffee pot. Jacob ran over to the sink and turned on the tap, only for nothing to come out. Autopilot disengaged.